this event. I wanted to let you know that the introduction and the keynote speech today will be recorded. The breakout sessions will not be. Okay. To go over today's event, off at 10 o'clock. I'm back. Okay. We are going to have a keynote speech by Chanté Summer. We'll take a break at 10:45, and then shortly after that, we will go into our roundtable discussions. There are 3 different concepts for the breakout discussions. We have equality in the workplace. There will be 2 leaders for that. Work-life balance, there will be 2 leaders for that. And we also have networking and personal branding, of which that will be led by 2 leaders. We will take a short break in between the first and second breakout sessions, and we will do a short debrief after each while Ashley is in the background rearranging the breakout rooms. At the end, we will conclude with a poll, a raffle, and any closing remarks. Feel free to ask questions throughout this event. We would love to engage with you. Just to briefly go over the Women's Chemist Committee, our vision is to empower women throughout the chemical enterprise with the mission to attract, retrain, develop, promote, and advocate for women to positively impact equity and inclusion in the society and the profession. Our goals are to increase engagement and retention of women, advocate and educate with the society on issues of importance to women, enhance leadership and career development for women, and highlight the contributions of women. And if you want more information, you can check us out at the website at the bottom, www.acswcc.org, or please follow up with me afterwards if you have any questions or would like to get involved. The Younger Chemist Committee's vision is to lead young leaders transforming the world through chemistry, with the mission to advocate for, develop, and support rising chemists to positively impact their careers, the ACS, and the future of chemistry. The WCC goals are to advocate, YCC goals, excuse me, are to advocate for younger chemists' needs, concerns, and contributions, provide tools and support for younger chemists for diverse career opportunities and development, and to foster and connect communities of younger chemists across the world. Please follow up with Julie and Bob if you have any questions about the YCC, or visit the website at www.acsYCC.org. We would like to acknowledge and thank the sponsorship that we received to put this event together. We were granted a grant by the ACS Corporation Associates. We are here to develop non-technical skills, and we need to understand the importance of that. 62% comes from collaboration, 48% communication, 43% creativity, 33% innovative spirit, and 24% intellectual curiosity. We'll now go into introducing the keynote speaker and the other leaders for the breakout sessions, and I will turn that over to Kathy to do the introductions.
Hi, thanks, Stacy. I'm very pleased to introduce today's keynote speaker, Chanté Summer. In her personal and professional life, Chanté works to promote and empower emerging leaders in STEM. Chanté Summer is a scientist at Pfizer, Inc. in the Bioprocess Research and Development Division of Pharmaceutical Sciences. She works with a multidisciplinary team to develop innovative technologies for the development of mid to late stage therapeutics, including modalities for gene therapy, infectious disease, and cancer. Chanté designs small-scale laboratory experiments for process characterization and optimization for large-scale manufacturing production of clinical trial material. Passionate about social justice and equity, Chanté engages her community through volunteer work, to promote diversity in the sciences and inspire youth to explore STEM. In particular, she works with the local ACS and AAAS groups. She was featured on an episode of the podcast, The Story Collider. Chanté completed her Master's of Science in Chemistry from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, where her thesis focused on the synthesis of potentially biologically active compounds. I speak for all participants in welcoming Chanté and thanking her very much for her time and joining us today.
Thank you. So we will go into the round robin breakout sessions. Kathy, did you want to go over the logistics of that?
Sure. So if y'all remember when you signed up, you chose two of these three topics as your first two. So Ashley has assigned you to each of those two groups, one in the first session, one in the second session, and you'll just automatically be put into those groups based on how you had chosen initially, and the leaders will run them as they see fit, and then we'll break and then we'll come back together again. So we all should get some information from all of the topics.
Ashley will be our timekeeper in the background, as well as organizing the breakout rooms. She will send out a 5-minute reminder that will pop up at the top of your screen, and then it will have a 60-second countdown. Once the 60 seconds is up, it'll bring you back into the main lobby of the Zoom room. Here are the 3 different breakout sessions. The first breakout session is going to be work-life balance, who will be led by Liz Garrett and Sarah Golding. Another breakout session will be equality in the workplace. We have Kim Pierman and Christina Haas. Then we have networking and personal branding. We have Susan Morris and Kathleen Spangler running those sessions. I'll briefly just bring it back to the outline, and then I will turn it over to Chanté for the keynote speech.
Cool. Can everybody maybe give me a so you can hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So there's a lot to cover for today's keynote speech, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in and share some slides. Maybe. Do I have to have privileges? There it is. Okay. Great. Okay. So I decided to title my talk Self-Discovery, because I think that theme runs through each of these topics for the workshops today, and really its power in leveraging your career forward. Thank you so much for the introduction, Kathy. I'm not going to belabor who I am, but Chanté Summer's keynote for today. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I've spent about 5 years in industry so far since graduating. So real quick, I just want to kind of set the expectations for everybody and welcoming the audience. And first, just saying that I'm going to have some interactive polling. So if you want to use your phone, tablet, or open like a new tab on your computer and just copy and paste maybe this into the chat, somebody can. It's just www.menti.com. And when I ask some questions, there'll be a code, and you can just put that code into the website once it loads so that we can hopefully have a robust discussion and conversation. And that brings me to the point of today is that this is really for you guys. I've not been in all the conversations with all of the breakout leaders. I've been in just a few, and it's been really, really cool to see all of them find ways to make this for yourself. So really take this opportunity to learn, to lean into the discomfort, and to grow together, because this is ultimately for your own professional and personal development. So with that, I'll kick us off with the discussion around equality. And without getting too much into the weeds about like equality versus equity and diversity and all of that stuff, instead I would like us to focus on what does it mean to have equal access to the work opportunities. and how you really do have control within that environment. So the first poll that I would like everybody to engage in is understanding what values you might have and then how you want that to play out in your workplace. So if you're at that website, go ahead and go to the address and enter this code, and I'm going to navigate to the browser. So if everybody can, as I said, go to that website and start typing out some answers, hopefully everybody can see my screen and we can start to see what people value, which should hopefully be a bit diverse, maybe some of the same things. So workshop leaders, you're free to engage in this as well. And I'll just go ahead and like give an awkward pause for 30 seconds or so. Awesome. Seems like diversity is kind of a large, oh, we have respect. Kindness, I like that. Growth, fairness. Awesome. Open-mindedness. Okay, I'll give it just a few more seconds for some of the stragglers. So it seems like the top, the largest words here would be like respect and diversity. I see collaboration, teamwork, and those are all things that you want for your vision of work. And I think that it's really important for everybody to identify that for themselves, because when you begin to enter the workforce, whether you're currently in academia or industry, you need to know where you want to work so that you can have access to those equal opportunities. So let me jump back to slide deck. And so I think that's the first choice to decide when you want that equality at work, is choosing the right place to work. So for me personally, that is diversity. I'm a woman of color. That's my top priority when I'm looking at companies to work and when I'm at a current place. So that involves looking at the workforce and seeing how diverse it is. Do all of the levels have a diverse group of people that look like me, be that a woman or a person of color? And if not, is that due to a lack of retention of that diverse group? And does that speak to then whether or not the company is retaining those people by intentionally supporting the minority groups? And if I don't see that in a workplace, that immediately is a red flag that they are not prepared for me and my wants and needs and hopes for my personal and professional career. And so I'm probably not going to set up camp there. That lack of diversity across all of the levels is indicative that I don't have a place forward, and that's what I want for my career. This last point is a bit harder to maybe wrap your head around if pay scales aren't transparent, which oftentimes they're not. You can look at Glassdoor, you can look at different websites and get some understanding, but I think it's important to see if there's equal pay among the genders, whether that's a man or a woman or gender non-conforming folks, as well as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. If you're at work, this is a place where I would encourage everyone to lean into this discomfort and just ask. It's uncomfortable. It feels awkward at first. I've done it. I've built a good relationship with somebody, and I've just been like, hey, you're a white dude. That's the complete opposite of me. I would like to know what your salary is if you're willing to share it, so that I can begin to understand if my skill set is being compensated equally as you. So just quick, write on a Post-it note, slide it across the table or virtually, and have that conversation. And for me, I've been fortunate enough that those two situations went really well for me, and seeing that we were equal in that space. So you have to kind of decide based on your values and what you want at work, what questions to ask when choosing a place to work. And so once you're there, that raises the question, okay, I am now at this company, academia, or industry. How do I know I'm actually having equal opportunities to work, specifically if I'm facing adversity? based on stereotypes about your personal identity. And I think that brings me to my next point of inclusivity at work, which I think we saw in the word cloud. So me personally, up front, people see that I'm a person of color, people see that I'm a woman, and that I'm a scientist. And so sometimes those ideas in someone's head brings about certain stereotypes. So if we can go back to the website, it's the same code. I should just be able to go to the next slide and you all can start answering this question about some of the stereotypes that are against women, either you've heard in passing or maybe you yourself hold as a woman. Awesome. So you should be able to see this next question, and yeah, same thing, just go ahead and name out some stereotypes that you find people hold. Emotional, aggressive, professional, ditzy. I don't think I've heard that one. Unqualified, not capable, nerdy. I get that. Strong. I like that. Not smart enough. Strong-willed, cold. A few more seconds. Sensitive. So it seems like emotional's got a lot of votes. Aggressive might be the second one. Unqualified, sensitive, those are all tending to be top words. And I feel this a lot, particularly as a woman of color. And I've had this conversation with some of my white colleagues that because I speak boldly, it can come across aggressively because I'm a woman and a woman of color. And it's conflated with this idea that I'm actually just passionate about what I'm talking about. So when it comes to these stereotypes, back to my slide deck, and how they consider me as a scientist and as a woman of color, that can create this negative image in their mind that they might not want to work with me. And if they don't want to work with me based on these stereotypes, that is going to negatively impact my potential for growth and success. And so because these stereotypes begin to hinder a person's success, we are sort of stuck with the question of like, how the hell are we supposed to move past this? And sometimes the answer can be like, just to work harder. And I'm all for hard work, 100%, but it should not be at the expense of having to work harder just to get the same access to what everybody else has. And so instead of working harder, I kind of want to walk through this idea of moving past those stereotypes and seeing that person for who they are and what they offer at work actually starts with what seems to be easy is just talking about yourself, sharing bits and pieces of who you are with your voice. So as my colleagues begin to know more about me, they move from this one-dimensional idea of Chanté, who is Black, who's a woman, who's a scientist, into this more multi-dimensional idea of who Chanté is. I enjoy knitting. I like to draw. I'm obsessed with plants. My house is turning into a jungle slowly due to COVID. And most recently, my colleagues have also really gotten to know Chanté, the activist, this year. And that is really close to me and my heart, and I could not protest this summer in the wake of George Floyd's murder. And with that in mind, my colleagues are then faced with this conundrum. Most Americans have stereotypes when it comes to protesters, especially Black folks in the streets are often lumped together with rioters and looters. But because my colleagues also know Chanté the professional, the Chanté that they trust to run meetings, to get work done, to make some of the hard decisions, those two things have to be married in their mind. And that forces them to not only break the stereotypes of me as a person, but also the Black community as a whole, that we are not monolithic and that we have so much more to ourselves than this one-dimensional idea. And so choosing to let my colleagues see the Chanté the activist was really hard. It was a challenge over this summer, but it also started out really small. And I built trust with them over time so that I could say, this is really, really close to me, and I have to do this in conjunction with work. So knowing me holistically allowed them to continue that relationship of trust and to have empathy and compassion. And it really just built a place where I felt accepted fully at work. And then that moved them into a space to advocate for myself. So that brings me to my third point when it comes to equality at work is becoming an ally and also discovering that is around you. It folds a little bit into networking, which I'll get to at the end of the talk, but really it takes a village to, succeed. Either that's the project or even yourself. I am an extremely independent person, but I know that I cannot succeed alone, that I need people to support me and to help me. And so find coworkers that you trust and give them the little bits of information about yourself and see how they react and see that they still accept you and that they still trust you to do work. Not everybody's going to be your ally. So I think that that's also important to recognize that just because somebody might not be super accepting of you, that doesn't mean that the next person is also going to not accept you. Keep pushing into that space. Because I can say, for me personally, like this summer, I had a white colleague say, hey, I'm a woman and I'm white. And so with my privilege, I want to be able to help you in the streets. I can't do that because of COVID and my situation, but like, if you need bail because you're wrongfully arrested, like call me, here's my number, like, let me help you in this way and support you in this way. And that brought tears to my eyes in so many different ways that I fully felt supported at work with this part of me that was really important. And so don't be afraid to ask for support in little ways, and then understand that you can be an ally for other people. As I said, I'm very independent, I'm vocal, and I know that there are some women around me in meetings and stuff that might not feel the courage to speak up. And so by knowing them and knowing that that's a strength for myself, I can amplify their voice and support them and be an ally for them in that way. So real short, I went through a lot of information, but when it comes to equality, like first, just choose the right place that you can work at. If you see red flags, find a way to get out or find a different group or department. Share your story to continue to break down those stereotypes and really just become an ally for yourself and for others and advocate for one another. Okay, moving right along into work-life balance. This is probably one of my favorite topics to discuss. I don't use the word favorite lightly. It really is just something that I honestly have spent my whole life thinking about. So with that, this should be a really easy question for people. I think this year we've seen a lot of ways that we're under stress. So on that same website, menti.com, if you could enter the new code, I'll start us off with this question. Okay. Recording makeup labs. Evaluation letters, yeah. Formatting graphs, I feel ya. There should be a macro for that. Lab reports. Teaching, class. Awesome. Thank you for participating. Troubleshooting, funding reports, school, PowerPoints. Ah, I love PowerPoints. Waiting for feedback, that can be stressful. Awesome. Okay. Managing relationships, yes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close. So there's a lot of things that drain people, and that's going to be unique to yourself. So identifying those top activities that tax you both emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, all of those things, they're really important to identify. And that's going to change throughout your career. And so you just have to kind of keep up with that. Me personally, I had, I guess, the unfortunate event of, or circumstance, I guess, as a young high schooler, having to force into being like a caretaker for my family. My father has a disability, my mother had to work. So while juggling high school, I actually had to cook, clean, and raise my two younger sisters from the point that high school to college. And so like for them, that was like infancy to 5 or 6 years old. And as challenging as that was, it actually taught me early on to begin to identify when my body battery was at or near zero. And I recognized that, and like me being really short and irritable towards toddlers who are just whiny because they're not adults and they can't use their words yet. But in that sort of strife and understanding when I was really exhausted, I learned that I couldn't just push through and grin and bear it, so to speak, to be my best self for my family and to also juggle school work and exams and studying. I understood that for me to bring myself to my family and to my work at the time, which was high school, I had to kind of hit the reset button. So that brings me to the next question. If everybody could just answer these that actually bring them joy and energizes them. For me, this is a lot of different things. And again, it changes over the years based on kind of where you are in life. For me, it's like exercising. I really enjoy reading fiction books. Now I'm into podcasts. I really love connecting with loved ones, group meetings, collecting data. Feel that? Awesome. With my mouth. Rock climbing, watching movies, nature, music. I'm with the nature. I have an outdoors life. Flying my plane. Oh, somebody has a plane. Vacation. This is great. Awesome. Yeah, so again, everybody has their own way to recharge, and knowing that and then knowing what stresses you and what drains you, I think that everybody on this call is fully equipped to create and cultivate a life that's sustainable and create this dance between work and life. Work cannot be separated from life, nor can life be put aside when you're at work. I've had instances where I'm at work and life is just so in my face that I can't focus on work at times. And that's kind of why I personally don't like to call it this balancing act, because I think visually that looks like those two things are separate, where instead they're really intimately intertwined together. And so it's more of this harmonious dance of finding things outside the workplace that help you to reset that button. As I said, for me, that's exercise. So I created a lifestyle that allows me to fold exercise into my workday. So pre-COVID, I would get to the office about 6 a.m., work for 4 hours. I could see after 4 hours I was getting drained. Again, that irritable sense, not paying attention to emails or reading them thoroughly. And so I would actually just completely unplug from work, go to the gym that was 5 minutes from me, exercise, get some cardio in, take a quick shower, and come back to work. And I felt ready and recharged to really dive into, the problem solving of my day. The other thing that I'll add is that, and I saw this in the word cloud, there are a lot of things at work that can also energize you. So if you are at work and it completely drains you every single day, nothing brings you joy, that would be a red flag that you either need better boundaries or consider a change of position. There should be things at work that energize you, and you can also fold that into your natural day-to-day tasks. So I saw PowerPoint. I love PowerPoint. I really enjoy science communication and presenting. So that's something that brings me joy. And so I look for tasks that allow me to present because it energizes me and it makes me feel like I can run a marathon afterwards. The same can be said for me for traveling. I like traveling. I like seeing things, adventuring in that way. So my job at Pfizer allows me to travel for work. So that can easily be incorporated into energizing me, while some of the not so fun things at work that are necessary have to get done, but do drain me. So yeah, when it comes to work-life balance, knowing those two top things of what drains you, what energizes you, gives you the tools and power to really just build a lifestyle that serves you. And I know that some people, I saw this in some of the questions, like feel guilty for stepping away. Do not feel guilty, because when you build yourself up and make yourself the best that you can be for yourself, that actually serves you, your family, and the work that you have to do. So really try to push against that idea that you don't deserve a break, because everyone does. And that brings me to my last point of networking and personal branding. And again, as I said, self-discovery, this is so true here. You have to know who you are to really understand your brand and networking. And even those words for me personally feel a bit cringy. And we're scientists. I'm not trying to be an Instagram influencer. What does it matter if I have a brand? I get that. But I want to, maybe help everybody wrap their head around what personal branding means for scientists by this next question. So on the same website, we have a new code. It's to identify your top strengths. So take a minute and think of that while I navigate. Here we go. So this one, I decided, rather than everybody typing out something, just to answer a multiple choice. There are tons of strengths out there and skills that everybody is going to have. But just for the sake of time and conversation, I just wanted to see where everybody put themselves based on these few choices. Apparently no one listens to each other, so that might be a problem. I'm so surprised that nobody thinks that they're good at listening. Oh, okay, thank you. One person. Okay. So strategic planning is honestly my top strength. It's something that I have, just really learned to leverage over the years. And as I said, I didn't list everything. If you, take a Myers-Briggs, if you take an Enneagram test, if you take any of those personality style things, you begin to learn what your strengths and skills are. And those are the things that you actually bring to the table. Let me jump here. So understanding the things that you bring to the table and what you have to offer is actually what your brand is. For me, I'm very bold. I'm honest to a fault at times. I'm a challenger. I'm in, I think my work style is being a driver, so I take charge. It's that independence, that organization, and that problem-solving attitude that is my brand. And that's how I market myself, either to the outside world when it comes to interviews, as well as like internally at Pfizer when I'm working with teams. People know that that's who Chanté is, and that if they're looking for that skill set for a project, she has a lot to offer there. And so understanding your skills, your strengths, and ultimately what that brand is allows you to then enter the workforce and really navigate your career by picking and choosing not only the projects that you can apply yourself to, but also just jobs in general. And so that brings me to the networking piece. Can feel really overwhelming. And that's true if you're the outgoing, extroverted person who loves to talk to every single person in the room, or the more shy, quiet individual, which is where I sit. I don't like crowds. It feels really surfacey conversations, which is not what energizes me. I like more deep, intimate connections. So thank you, COVID, for removing all of the crowds, but that still does not remove the piece of networking virtually, and that everybody has more than likely a voice in the back of their head that says, you don't need to unmute yourself. You have nothing to add to the conversation. I feel that. I'm sure that most of the people on this call don't want to unmute themselves for questions when I'm done. But that's a place where I'm going to encourage you again to just like lean into the discomfort. Just write something down as somebody's talking that you have something to offer. Know that you also don't have to push through networking if it's miserable. Don't force connections. It shouldn't be a terrible interaction that you're having with somebody. And so when it comes to networking, it's really, really important to know yourself, know your strengths, your interests, your values, so that you can connect with somebody over the common things that you enjoy. For me, when it was in college and like right out of college, for me, that was specifically volunteer work. Doing science demonstrations grounded me and gave me purpose to interact with my community to make them better. And it also gave me a solid like 2 to 3 hours to spend with a few people and get to know them and talk to them over this common interest, and both being in my field. So I would encourage that like volunteer work is a fantastic way to network with people. And then as a working adult in the industry, you can still make those connections at work, in the workplace, based on common interests such as exercising. So for me, that's exercising. It's running, it's yoga, it's meditation. And I'll share like a quick anecdote. I was going over this presentation yesterday with a colleague, and this really resonated with him because he's not into drinking. So the idea of going to a happy hour at a bar and loud and alcohol, it doesn't feel right for him. But he felt like if he wasn't doing that, then he wasn't networking. And so instead, understanding his common interest in video games, he set up a video game hour on Fridays for his colleagues so that he can continue to build that relationship with them, but it's also not painful for him. So yeah, when it comes to networking and personal branding, knowing yourself, your strengths, your values, what you have to offer allows you to network and connect better with others. And then lastly, like networking shouldn't be painful. Be authentic, be yourself, don't force an interaction. If you find yourself talking to somebody and you're not clicking, that's okay. Just thank them for their time, encourage them in whatever, you know, their pursuit is, and then have a quick goodbye. Yeah, so that really kind of wraps up my talk for today. I really want to leave time for questions if possible. I'm a person that I really like action items at the end of a presentation, especially if it comes to like developing myself. So I wanted to leave everybody with just some quick examples of low-hanging fruit that you as young professionals early in your career can maybe just tackle in the next month. So quality, identify an ally at work. If you're in academia or industry, find somebody that you trust and be an ally for somebody. And breaking those stereotypes, prepare a question that you want to ask a colleague to get to know them better. It's really easy. People love to talk about themselves. When it comes to work-life balance, identify one thing that's energizing you at work. And then if you're feeling super drained, you probably need to set a boundary. Whether that's no emails after 7 p.m., communicate that with your team, no emails. If you need me and it's an emergency, give me a call. And then when it comes to networking, I always say join a volunteer group. That's a little bit different under COVID terms with everything being virtual. I will say that under the election season, there's a lot of phone banking opportunities to get the vote out. I hope that everyone on this call has either voted already or has a plan to vote. And then if you're that one-on-one person, go ahead and just set up a meeting with a colleague over coffee or lunch. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 15 minutes. Both get coffee, sit down, you know, talk about whatever you need to talk about, and just connect with somebody. And with that, I'm going to be done talking, and hopefully I left questions for everybody. I want to thank everybody for engaging on the polls. I really enjoyed that. Thank you, Virginia ACS and YCC and WCC for this opportunity. And I hope I left time for questions. I talked really quickly, so I'm done.
Thank you, Chanté. That was really amazing. We do have one question in the chat right now. It says, if you find interacting with colleagues draining, how can you plan around that in the workplace? Getting feedback and mentoring younger colleagues is important, but as an introvert, I become extremely drained, which negatively impacts my productivity.
Yeah, so that's awesome that you're able to recognize that. I think at that point, it really just creates a decision to meter what you can handle and communicating that. So if you have 5 people that you feel obligated to mentor, but you know that that's draining, begin to have conversations with them that you can really only handle one person, or maybe reducing the amount of times that you're interacting with them and encouraging them to maybe find a secondary mentor so that you don't have to be so drained and that it's not all on your shoulders, is what I would say. Colleague interactions drain me a lot when I'm at work. And so, like I said, for me, that's just finding a reset button. So sometimes that's like going on a walk around the building, doing a quick meditation. I'm fortunate enough that Pfizer has like a meditation room actually. So there's a quiet place for me to step away. Just, yeah, find little ways to kind of maybe reset after those exhausting interactions.
Great. Do we have any more questions?
Hi there, Chanté. Thanks for the presentation. I do have a question. So in college, how do you connect with a supervisor that simply ignores you and your interests? Like you really can't choose that person.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to make the assumption that the supervisor is your direct supervisor, and yeah, that is hard. I've been in that situation for sure, so I can empathize the challenge of that. What I would say is, if you know what your interests are and you know what path you sort of want for yourself, start connecting with other supervisors so that you and your wants are brought to the forefront of their mind, because usually supervisors talk and they're going to talk to each other and begin to say, oh, this person has this wants and interest. How do we get them there? And if your supervisor isn't doing that, you can get other supervisors to advocate for you. So I would encourage you to set up those one-on-one conversations with other supervisors and communicate that with them, because they're also a resource for you. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you.
There's another question in the chat. It says, women and URM already have fewer opportunities in certain fields, so sometimes we can't be so picky with job opportunities. How do we find balance of availability with opportunities versus ensuring values are met?
Yeah, let me think for a minute. So I think I would maybe like lean into a little bit that like we can't be picky with job opportunities. I think that that's very seasonal. So my first job, same thing. I was not picky. I needed a job out of college. I needed to start getting an income. So I was not picky at all. And I think after you move from that first job and you begin to look for other jobs while you have a job, you can be a lot more stringent on what you're willing to accept for yourself. And the other thing, as I mentioned with volunteering, that can be a really great resource for you to maybe build a skill set that you don't currently have at your place of business. And yeah, building those skills so that you can navigate to a different career path if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, there's a lot to that question. So hopefully that gave you like a nugget of helpful information.
It says, I've been told that I need to be more interested in the person themselves when it comes to networking rather than their work. But I found myself in professional settings that if I'm not interested in what they do for a living, we do not have much to talk about. Is this the wrong approach? How do you work around this?
Okay, I think I'm understanding your question that maybe you are more focused on their professional life than their personal life. And I think that goes back to my point, like you don't necessarily have to force networking interactions. I do have relationships at work where it's strictly work and we only talk about work, and that's okay because that's where we bond. And I know that our personal lives do not overlap. And so I tend to just focus on the professional stuff. So like chemistry, if we're both chemists, then we can talk about maybe recent literature reviews and articles that is pertinent to work, and we can connect that way. yeah, it's okay that you don't have much to talk about when it comes to the personal life. And if you don't want to share something about yourself or them share something about themselves that you feel uncomfortable, like it's okay to drive that relationship to be work focused. And it can still have value in a lot of different ways. So hopefully, I think I understood your question.
We have time for one more question. If no one has anything else, I'll hand it back over to Stacy. Okay, looks like the last question says, as a minority and during an interview, when asked if you work better independently or in groups, should you be honest or say what they want to hear?
I guess you first have to decide what it is that they want to hear. It depends upon the work. So if you think that the job is strictly going to be you doing independent work and you are an independent person, yeah, that aligns. So answer honestly. I think that every job requires a bit of independence and a bit of collaboration on teams and groups. I found that, yes, I think a bit of the question is a concern that, like, because you're a minority, you don't want to come across a certain kind of way. And that's a minefield to navigate. But me as a minority, and I am extremely independent, I explain how that independence, when I leverage it, how it's helpful to the project. But also being honest and saying, like, because I'm so independent and driven, I can sometimes railroad people, and that's not helpful in this situation. So knowing that, I'm able to flex out of that style of independence and be more collaborative, and how it's helpful here. So I think you first have to understand what specifically they're asking about independence versus collaboration, and really just be like, I always default to honesty. If they're not going to accept that honesty, then that's probably not going to be a good long-term working relationship at the end of the day. And you don't want to, because yeah, if you lie in the beginning, then like you have to carry that lie out through like the rest of your work career in that space. I don't know.
Great, thank you for the engagement in the Q&A. We are going to go into a short 5-minute break, and then we will all meet back here, do a brief introduction, round robin with the different women leaders, and then we will break out into our sessions. So please meet back at 10:53. Thanks. Okay, we are gonna move forward. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera at the moment. It will not turn back on. But I would like to just go around and have the women leaders briefly introduce themselves. We will start with equality in the workplace with Christina. Or Kim Pierman.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank
My name is Kim Pierman. I am currently a quality analyst at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. I've been in the pharma industry for 19 years. I support contractors that do manufacturing, packaging, regulatory compliance, and quality systems within the pharmaceutical industry. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. We have work-life balance leaders, Liz.
Hello, good morning. I am an internationally certified coach, trainer, speaker, and author, and I am a former scientist. I am one who leaked out of the pipeline. So I specialize now in whole being, well-being to help STEM professionals beat burnout and enjoy a lucrative, meaningful, and sustainable career. It's a topic I feel strongly about, and I appreciate the opportunity to be in this playground with you today.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Golding. I'm an associate professor at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm in the Department of Biology, but I also work for the Dean of the College of Humanities and Sciences. And most of my work at VCU is actually on pipeline, making sure that students from underrepresented backgrounds are succeeding in both their bachelor's degree and entry into graduate training. So I'm very passionate about increasing the diversity of the scientific workforce and making sure that we don't get leaks from our pipeline. And work-life balance, I'm also a full-time working mom. And so I am passionate about making sure that we can be both women, mothers, and scientists.
Incredible, thank you. I'm gonna circle back to Christina. Would you like to give a brief introduction?
Hi there. Thanks so much. My name is Christina Haas, and I'm a human resources and talent acquisition professional. Primarily work over the past 20 years in scientific and engineering recruitment and HR, and so have a strong background with supporting scientists, researchers, and postdocs who are transitioning from university environments or institutional environments to industry. Most recently, I've been serving on the VCU Career Advisory Board and just really enjoyed my time working with students. So I really appreciate you having me here today.
Thank you. Then the networking and personal branding, we have Susan Morris.
Good morning, everyone from wonderful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am an internationally certified professional coach, and I'm also a personal growth speaker. My passion is to help STEM women get a seat at the top of their organization. And I've been doing this since 2009. I am not a scientist, and I'm proud of my ability to be objective and to bring my wide array of clients and experiences to those of you that are women in science. And I am extremely happy to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, networking and personal branding.
Thank you, Susan. And Kathleen?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Kathleen Spangler. I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I currently work at Altria Client Services. I've held various roles in contract labs, and now I've spent the last 5 years at Altria in various roles, including method development and validation, regulatory affairs, and now advanced analytics as an associate manager. And I do have a strong connection with the ACS. I was YCC chair at one point before Julian has taken over and really taken this off to great, great lengths. And then also I've served as the section chair for ACS Virginia section. So very excited to be here and meet some more ACS members.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, we will break out into our first session. Please just hang tight and turn it over to Ashley.